So I wanted to quickly discuss the idea of counter forces at play. And this comes from a discussion with a friend where we were discussing a cue or people doing or thinking of wedging the hips in on the deadlift. And yes, you want to have your hips as close as the bar to reduce the moment arm, but for a lot of people, it won't be a conscious movement to wedge the hips in, and instead it's the idea of wedging the entire body into the bar. And this happens in the squat and happens in the deadlift. In the deadlift, this happens as not only are we thinking of just pulling with our back, we're also thinking of pressing with our legs and pushing the hips in. So you have these counter forces of you're pulling this way, but simultaneously you're extending with the legs. So you have this counter force of the back pulling up and the legs pushing up. But you also have the force of the hips coming in. When all these forces are counteracting with each other, when the back is pulling backwards, when the legs are pushing up, and when the hips are pushing in, all these forces center on the bar, and that's what gets the bar to levitate off the ground. Similarly, in the squat, if you're only pressing with the legs out of the hole, you're just going to end up tipped forward. So for a lot of people, the cue of throw the bar off your back ends up keeping them in a good position. And that also kind of goes into why some people like to use the cue of hip drive. It's not so much that you're actually using your hips out of the hole, but instead if you try and push forward with the hips out of the hole, automatically your chest kind of comes up. And it's again that same idea of counter forces. So the whole idea to make your lifts as efficient as possible is to reduce that moment arm and to kind of center your force production around the bar. It's not just thinking of pulling the bar off the ground, it's thinking of while you're pulling upwards, you're pushing yourself down into the bar. It's not only are we standing up with the bar, but we can also be using the force to pull ourselves back while under the bar. And so when you combine these things, that's when you become the most efficient. So whether it's a squat, the bench, the deadlift, any other movement, you always want to think about being as efficient as possible and trying to center yourself around the thing that you're trying to lift.